If cloture is not invoked, I will file an amendment that would prevent the president from lifting sanctions until Iran meets two simple benchmarks. It must formally recognize Israel's right to exist, and it must release American citizens being held in Iranian custody.
The Senate Majority Leader a short time ago talking about this effort on the disapproval that's been really blocked by Democrats. Now he's going to add another element, 2 amendments, as you just heard. Well, Democrats not too happy about that development.
When you're playing pure politics with international relations, you're really playing with the security of this country. And there's absolutely no reason to have this vote today other than a desire on behalf of the majority party here in the Senate to try to gain some perceived political advantage over the minority party or over the president.
That's happening up on Capitol Hill as we speak. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Charles.
Look, the whole idea of any of this is to get on the record for the future what the vote is on this treaty, which will live for a very long time, so that any future president will have an easier time getting out of it. It's to delegitimize it. The Democrats want to hide that by not having a vote. That's why they are filibustering. McConnell wants to put them on the record for something involving Israel. I don't think that's the wisest move. You want to put them on the record? Introduce an amendment that says what the House bill does, that the treaty was never submitted as required because it doesn't include all the documents, meaning the secret IAE deals, which allow Iran to inspect itself. In the absence of that, it was never transmitted, and thus there's no clock running out on this. The other thing I would say is, why allow the Democrats to filibuster at all? Apply the nuclear option. If Harry Reid applied it so he could get 2 or 3 judicial appointments through the Second Circuit, then why not do it over the most important treaty of our time? There are a lot of options here. They will only expose the Democrats. They would only delegitimize the deal. It's not going to stop it. But that's going to be important after Obama is gone.
You know, Senator Murphy says it's not right to play politics here, but there's politics in all of this, Mara. Oh, yeah. If you look at polls, it's upside down on this Iran deal.
It's upside down on this Iran deal, yet the Democrats were firm, and they kept the number they needed to filibuster this, not just to uphold a veto. That was the first bar, but they went even further. And a lot of Democrats I've talked to say this might be unpopular in polls, but it's not a voting issue. In other words, it's not going to motivate people to vote against you. Trade, on the other hand, is for Democrats. So they feel pretty safe on this. The interesting thing is this isn't a treaty. If it was, it would have taken 67 votes in the Senate. It's not technically a treaty. And I don't know what the Democrats are going to do to counter this. Maybe say Saudi Arabia should recognize Israel. But I do know that at the White House they say they have submitted everything. The documents from the IAEA are not theirs to disclose.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
That's what they say.
We sit on the executive committee of the IAEA. Every country has a right to demand the documents, and we have not done that.
Look, and Corker-Cardin directly required them to do so. I mean, it was explicit about this, and that didn't happen. As many problems as there were with Corker-Cardin. Look, this is fine. I think this is a fine effort to get Democrats on the record, as Charles suggests. But I think he's right that, and I'm against the nuclear option as a matter of principle. But Democrats have done it.
And the nuclear option is the 50-vote threshold.
Correct. So it would
not because we're mixing our nuclears here.
Correct. Yes. I mean, procedurally, the nuclear option.
Drop the bomb on Tehran.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
But it is.
But I think if you're ever going to do it, this would be a time. I mean, you've heard from Republicans that this is potentially a world-changing event, a world-changing deal. Well, if it's a world-changing deal, you ought to take every possible step to prevent it from happening. But I think Republicans really missed an opportunity earlier to make their best public case. And there was an editorial in the Wall Street Journal today urging them once again to do so. You have 3 senior Defense Intelligence Agency officials shouting to Congress, saying, we need to see these documents, not the IAEA documents, although it's important to see those. We need to see these documents that the administration has kept hidden, that were found in Osama bin Laden's compound, that describe the relationship between al-Qaeda and Iran. You have an Obama administration that has designated al-Qaeda operatives operating in Iran. They've acknowledged the existence of this. Why are we doing a nuclear deal with the terrorist entity that's been trying to hit us and continues to do so to this day, that gets support from the people we are now giving hundreds of billions of dollars? It's a key question. It's an important question. The Wall Street Journal, I thought, had a very important editorial about it today. I'm just shocked that Republicans haven't made this an issue. They seem uninterested in making this an issue, and I think it's the single best issue, rhetorically, to make in this whole argument.
Why is that? Why has that decoupling happened?
I don't know. Look, there is a huge difference on many, many things between Republicans in general and the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill. It goes from the shutdown to Iran to many other things. They've decided that's not the way to go.
One point, you said earlier that Democrats aren't worried about this because it isn't a voting issue. That's the definition of playing politics. Here's the most important agreement of our generation. It will be with us for decades. And you're telling me that the Democrats are calculating it's okay to support it, even though it's going to be a catastrophe for the country, because it's not
going to be a catastrophe.
True believers.
Yeah, true believers, all of them. How can you read an agreement like this and come out as a true believer, where Iran inspects itself at Parchin, where you have a 1-month delay in inspections, where you're giving them $100 billion in advance after having said we're not going to lift the sanctions immediately, have to be shown, where North Korea is doing to its deal, which we did. Wendy Sherman and others, one who negotiated the Iran deal, had negotiated in the 90s, throwing it out, trashing it, 20 years later, recurring now. No, I believe that some of them do who are deluded, but I agree with you. For a majority of them, the calculation is it won't cost me my seat. I go with the president. That's a political vote.
Strong letter to follow.
Exactly.
Next up, all eyes on the outsiders, Donald Trump and Ben Carson in the spotlight and up in the polls.